Alrighty, everybody. This is Michael from Spades Consulting. We are going to talk about Ford, mostly about its CEO, and we're going to talk about the technician shortage because it's still relevant and it's a problem that refuses to die out. And it's worth talking about. This will be a shorter one though. All right, so first and foremost, going back a little while, probably a couple weeks ago, Ford CEO came out and was crying and complaining about 6,000 bays being empty. Oh my God, we have no technicians. We have a technician shortage, everybody. No, we don't. We don't have a shortage of technicians. We have a shortage of pay. That's what it is. That at the end of the day, for most of the fields, that's the problem. It's either a shortage of pay or a wall and licensing and certifications and the oh hell, what's the term for it? Oh, progressive credentialism. That's what it is. It's an issue of progressive credentialism. You have 6,000 bays and over 140 different recalls because you purged all of the people who knew how to do stuff. Now, this is, at least in this aspect, it is kind of pro boomer, but you literally went through, just like Chrysler did, they went through anybody who worked for Ford, whether it's the master mechanics, the old engineers, anybody who actually knew how to do things, they purged them, replaced them, and they happened to replace them with mostly third world labor engineers. And now Ford has the same, if not worse, problems that Chrysler or Chrysler, Stellantis, whatever the hell they're called now, whoever the hell they're owned by now, still junk vehicles. That's all they are. Junk vehicles. They might look nice. You give them that. I mean, who wouldn't want a Hellcat? But good luck finding. Oh, what was that? I think it was intake gaskets. Intake gaskets. A gasket, something that should be maybe at best, let's say it's got a plastic frame or something, but a gasket which should be like maybe max $50. For a while, it might even still be going on. There's a shortage of them, so if you get one, because you have to, oh God, oh, it's split too, isn't it? I think it's split, so you have to buy a set of them or multiple sets at one time to actually get them. And even though they should be worth 20 to 50, there's so few of them out there. And again, you'd have to check to see if this is still a problem, but there's so few of them out there that a $20 to $50 part is worth three 300 to 3,000 just because a lot of people are desperate to get them back on the road. Yeah, it's not exactly great. But in Ford's position, honestly, Ford shouldn't exist anymore. It just shouldn't. That's just the truth of it. The shortage of technicians comes from, and especially in Ford's case, the reason why nobody wants to be an auto tech is one, as soon as everything went to modular when it came to the electrical systems, things started going very, very poorly. Because it's bad enough when you have to chase down, one bad sensor out of an entire engine bay of them. But when you add on to the fact that you have modules which require specific resistances, like problems like with the Nissans, where some of the Nissans and Uncle Tony's Garage, he's good to listen to on these, where you can't just replace one spark plug or one coil pack. You have to replace them all, because if the way that their system was designed, if there is beyond a very, very slim threshold, if there is a difference in resistance, it'll just code and it won't run worth a damn, if it even runs at all. But the majority of work, when it comes to technicians, not necessarily mechanics, but technicians, which I consider technicians kind of lower than mechanics, mostly because they're not on their own and they're still tied normally to a dealership. Nobody wants to, like, the warranty jobs. So going back in time a bit, mechanics used to go off book time for everything. So instead of having to just roughly estimate it, you would have book time where you can look up how much does a job take based on which model car, which features, which trim level, and you would get a decent amount of time. So if it took you longer, it was more on you as a trained professional for dropping the ball. If it took shorter, then congratulations, you just made a lot more money than you should have. But it's the bonus for being skilled. Anyway, the book times for half of the work on modern cars is incredibly, insanely off from the reality. You know, a job that will take literally 8 hours of just dedicated grinding away in the slime and the muck and the dust and the rust. An 8-hour job will be book time for Ford like 2 hours max. You know, they don't want to pay for any of that shit. And the fact that it's all warranty work that's coming from this, like the majority of work when it comes to Ford, especially, but also with the other brands, the majority of work is warranty work, where the book time is way too low. So you can't make any money on it. When you are looking at a field of broke down piece of shit modern Ford vehicles, and you're looking at a sea of 8-hour jobs that are only going to pay you for 2 hours, the costs of being a mechanic isn't cheap. Even if you're working for a dealership, you have all your tool costs. Everybody knows the quote-unquote grape wagon. That is the Snap-on truck or the Mac Tools truck, whatever tools truck you use. Still, you're paying a fortune for just the base materials to do your job. But you also have the scan tools, which most professional shops have their own scan tools. They handle all that as just a piece of the operating cost, and you don't really have to worry about it. But every single car brand decided it would be a great fucking idea to lock more and more and more and more and more of the data and the sensor readings behind either dealer-only readers, or they have you pay a ridiculous fee in order to access that data. So you have scan tools that already cost $3,000 or $4,000, and then on top of it, you're looking at never-ending subscription models to just be able to keep reading the data or get access to the newer and newer vehicles, trash that they put out. It's too much. It's too much. Nobody wants to deal with it. The fact that everything is compressed and modular and the costs are being cut for everything. Like, oh God, what was it? I forget which model of Jeep, but Jeep flew right off the cliff. They used cheaper wiring, so like every single Wrangler eventually runs into... give me 1 minute. Okay, and we're back. My apologies, and hopefully that doesn't break the recording, but call I definitely had to take. Anyway, So, where were we? All right. Ford, tons of recalls, all the warranty work, an entire sea of 8-hour jobs that are only paying 2 hours. The costs of being a mechanic are incredibly high. They keep getting higher. I mean, constant, and it's like this with everything with the progressive credentialism. You're looking at more and more and more barriers to entry that only serve to extort people who are willing to do the job and put them into debt for, I mean, ideally, they want to put them in debt for the rest of people's lives. But you can't keep this up. You just can't keep this up. Nobody wants to be a technician or a mechanic if they are looking at losing money on every single job. You literally can't do it. You can't do it. And it's not just with mechanics, but it's like this with the plumbers. It's like this with less so the electricians, but the plumbers, the carpenters, even HVAC guys. Like you got people lining up to go to the slaughterhouse of constant certifications, constant re-education requirements. We need more college. We need you to literally dedicate every single waking breath to the trade whilst we make it harder to do every year. And it's just like nobody wants to do that anymore. Nobody wants to have to disassemble half of a car to get to one part. And then you go to order the one part that you need to swap. And it's going to be a X amount a month wait. Like nobody can afford this anymore. All right, nobody can afford nobody can afford Ford. Nobody can afford for their car to be down for 2, 3, 4 months waiting on critical parts. Like the dealerships can't afford it, the mechanics can't afford it, the people who have jobs to go to can't afford it. And I mean, most of the car companies, honestly, they should be recalling damn near all the vehicles they've made for the past 10 years. This is the thing. You've got 25, 30-year-old Toyotas. You have Datsuns that are still on the road. Datsun, the original Nissan. You still have those on the road. They're still running. They're still great. Like, you've got 20 and 30-year-old cars that are still fantastic, and you can still get parts for them, even if you have to occasionally go to a junkyard. Doesn't matter. You can still find parts. Modern vehicles, they're just not worth it. Honestly, if you absolutely need a means of transportation, if you're in the rural areas or you're just far enough away from a city that you would actually benefit from not having to walk miles to work, and I mean, obviously, the base comfort, the creature comfort of being able to drive wherever is fantastic. But when and where you can, honestly, the better bet is just to get a bike, get a motorcycle. All right, that's the honest to God truth, because there's not enough extra room on a motorcycle to absolutely fucking murder it with endless sensors. And I mean, the CAN bus system was basic enough. It did the job, but they wanted to go farther than that. They want to keep adding more sensors, more lights, more flashing, more sirens, more alarms, more this, more that. You need backup cameras. Okay, cool. We can do backup cameras. 3 months later, okay, yeah, we couldn't do backup cameras, but this time we swear we can do it. But we can't get the parts in for 4.5 months. Like, do you see? Like, why? Why? One, the quality is so low, there's literally no point to buy anything new, and you can't fix it. I mean, you can, but you can't. And the people who honestly have been along with all of the major car brands long enough to see the transition from carburetors to fuel injection and just the watching all of the changes being made, and the people who honestly kept up with all of those changes, learned all those systems, who could spot an issue with the system based on one rattle at one spot at one specific time. Like, those people either got purged, or retired, or dead. Like, that's the thing. All of the people who've been around to watch the whole process and could honestly put the pieces together without having to spend 4 hours trying to diagnose something simple. The car doesn't start. Is the battery terminal hooked up? Did you take the cap off the old one? Or the new one? Did you check these? Like, nobody wants to work on new cars. Absolutely nobody. And this is the thing, like, even cars that aren't that new. Like, I've had '07s that you try to take it to a garage and they're like, "Oh hell no, we can't do nothing with that." Like, we'll look at it. We'll try to pull a code. We'll definitely charge you for it, but we're not going to find anything. And in that case, to get the codes from that, of course, Eurocar, you had to download separate software, and there wasn't just a fee to unlock the software. There were fees and subscriptions to every single part of the car's systems. So if you wanted to check the fuel air system, that was one subscription in the wider software package. If you wanted to access to drivetrain sensors, speed sensors, any of that, that's a separate system. If you wanted access to the, what was it? To evap and emission system. That's another cost every single month, just soaking up the cash from your pockets. And it's just like, yeah, nobody wants to do this anymore. Nobody wants to do this anymore. Like, and at some point, even with tariffs and protectionist economic policies, it's going to become incredibly apparent. It will be a national security thing, because when the workers who keep the supply chains moving, who keep the country moving, can't move to their jobs, yeah, you're going to have a problem. They're going to have to open the floodgates and let foreign competition into the U.S. auto market. And they're going to have to reel back all of the emissions laws, because right now you can get a brand new Toyota for 15 grand and it does everything you need it to do. All right, it doesn't have the backup cameras, it's not luxury, but it'll do the job. Everybody knows, I mean, there's definitely demand for the K cars and the little mini, South Korean and Japanese and even Chinese trucks. I mean, personally, if if I had my way, one thing that anybody who knows, like, personally, I want one of those old army trucks. I forget what the hell they're called. Deuce and a half. You can literally run those on anything, literally anything, and they are bulletproof as a motherfucker. Reliability out the ass. The only problem is the differential. You chew through tires left and fucking right, but they are incredibly reliable. Only issue is you essentially have to, if you need any kind of major part for them, you have to go through the dark web to get parts for the deuce and a halves. And it's just like, oh, that's not fantastic. But you know what you don't have to go through the dark web for? The Soviet equivalent, the ZIL, I think it's the ZIL 130s or 131s. Or was it 40? Regardless, The old Army trucks, fantastic, never fail. Old Toyotas, fantastic, never fail. Like, there is no more room for failure in the United States. Like, the margin that allowed car companies to sell this junk to people and shaft the mechanics, that's over. That's over. Inflation has eaten that margin to zero. You cannot afford an unreliable vehicle in 2025, 2026, 2022 infinity. You can't afford unreliable vehicles. You just can't. You need something, you put the key in, you turn it, it starts, it runs, it's perfect, it's fine. You can't afford a truck that you got 5 years ago rotting and rusting to the point that it will fail every state inspection, no matter what state you take it to, even states without inspection laws. Like, this is the thing. You've got cars that are so trash. I mean, Ford's putting them out. Everybody's putting them out now. And it's just like the US is very open to just bad design. It's very open to it. It rewards failure. And that's one of the biggest problems in this country. It's rewarded failure. It's bailed out failure left and right. And that's got to come to an end. When it comes to what's his face complaining about 6,000 empty bays, it's just like, tough shit. I guess you better pick up a wrench, bud. That's really what it comes down to. Because all of the C-suite, all of the executives, and this is the same for Ford, this is for GM, this is for all the major auto brands when it comes to the US market. The only thing they care about is getting you to sign on the dotted line, take one of their liability machines off their hands, and cash in on their bonuses and their retirement packages, and they don't care. There is no financial incentive to care, and they can pump out infinite garbage designs. They can pump these out all day because there is not a criminal risk. There's not a criminal liability for producing trucks that somehow managed to pick up something that Jeeps had. Really, the death wobble. So instead of, hard controls, Pitman arms, steering racks being connected, you're going to switch to electronic and somehow still get it wrong? Really? I mean, input lag, input delay is always a problem, but really? You could literally kill people with these newer cars. You can kill the driver and you can kill somebody else on the road, but they don't directly have any legal penalties. There's no legal risk to the executives at Ford for putting out garbage. And it's the same with, was it the 2008 to 2014, 15 Jeeps? They had the Compass models, the cheap Jeep. Those had plenty of issues with the CVT transmissions and intercoolers and overheating and everything else. They also had fun ones like stalling out and dying in the middle of a left turn, which conveniently would always get you at a goddamn intersection. And it's just like, really? So if you have that opportunity to make a turn, if it's an unprotected turn to the left, you have the opportunity, you can make it, you gun it, you try to make that turn, your Jeep dies on you right there. And you could have God knows what coming down the line. It could be a semi-truck that can't slow down in time. Like, this is a thing when it comes to, oh God, what the hell are they called? The NHTSA, whatever, a National Traffic Highway Safety Administration. Like, dude, you guys dropped the goddamn ball. You're letting these cars get, flooded in to the U.S. market. And they will literally get people killed because they're so poorly engineered. And it's just like, what the hell do they do? Well, really, we only care about the recalls. And it's just like, yeah, there's only a problem. There's a slight problem though with the recalls. If a company doesn't openly, voluntarily handle the recall, slight issue, what are you going to do about it? Because for those Jeep Compass models, for the longest time, everybody knew they were a problem. Jeep refused, or Chrysler, or whatever the hell they were called at the time, refused to do recalls on those transmissions. They refused to do recalls for all of the problems that they had. And now, what the hell are they putting out now? The new Jeeps have plastic oil coolers. You know, oil comes out of the engine, right? It's constantly getting cycled. Hot, cold, plastic don't really mix too well. But on top of it, let's just add the sprinkle of plastic fuel rails. Wow. Plastic fuel rails, plastic intake manifolds. This was one thing Crown Vics, Town Cars, and Grand Marquis, they all had these problems where Ford tried to put on a plastic intake manifold, and of course they cracked by the what is it? By the thermostat housing, top half of it. They would crack, and of course they had to come out later with a replacement. Still a plastic intake manifold, but they used aluminum for the top of the thermostat housing. Like, little things like that. Like, you can't just make an entire engine out of plastic. I mean, you can, and I'm sure somebody in this country will borrow God knows how much money for it, but that doesn't make it right. Honestly, these cost cuts should be outlawed just based on, you have a hot engine, you have plastic fuel rails. The the gas itself is probably degrading the plastic, but just the heat of the engine itself, even if it's completely inert to the plastic, the heat of the engine is going to expand, contract, expand, contract, expand, contract, and it's going to crack, and it's probably going to crack in winter. Or it's going to start leaking in summer. So we're just okay with gasoline being just flooded on top of hot engines in this country. That's okay, apparently. Yeah. Don't be surprised that nobody wants to be a mechanic, especially if you are taking off a plastic fuel rail and replacing it with another plastic fuel rail. When you have to replace an oil cooler with another plastic oil cooler. Like, these engines, these parts are built to just implode and fail and keep you in the dealership forever. And it's just like, you can't afford that. If you're working a job in America, you cannot afford that. All right, like, just about every single job has a points policy, and it's just like, unless you can constantly get bailed out, constantly get rides, or have insurance that will just forever allow you to get a rental car and just hang out in a rental car forever, because your main car is either going to keep breaking down or it's never going to leave the dealership because the parts are back ordered to infinity. It doesn't work. At the end of the day, it does not work. But regardless, I'm already way off track. We are going to end it here. I've been Michael from Spades Consulting. You guys have a good one, and for the love of God, do not buy a new car. Don't do it. Of all of the mistakes that you can make in your life, do not buy a new car. You'll save yourself a fortune. Have a good one.